Good morning. Hi, good morning. It's so good to be here, and I'm very thankful for all the organization that has been behind and for the land that we stand on. As I pick my mother from Derechos Reales, a state office in downtown La Paz, Bolivia, I could hear a nearby brass band playing Bolivian folk dances, vendors' calls from a market across the street, and a busker playing a native flute. The outside speakers of a technology business store across from me blasted Korean pop. Inside the car, I was listening to the only radio program in the city that plays classical music. They were broadcasting a Beethoven symphony. You can imagine. Ta, 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 ta. Upon my mother's arrival, I turned off the radio to talk with her, but she asked if we could still listen to music. I accidentally pushed the wrong button and turned on another radio station, playing one of my favorite dances. I started jamming with this Bolivian folk tune and noticed that my mother was a little upset. When asked what was wrong, she commented that this folk dance tune for her signified the political unrest that revolves around the 1960s and 70s, when this new form of nationalistic music became inseparable from governmental and cultural reforms that included musical judgments about what was officially considered Bolivian. My mother's trip to the Libero Leather that day had already been interrupted by the sonic booms of tear gas canisters hurled at protesters in the city center of La Paz, closing government offices and wasting her trip. That day, the soundscape surrounding us and its connections with the traumatic events of political unrest in her upbringing overwhelmed my mother. As we arrived home, the soundscape changed to dogs barking, mixed with the greetings of neighbors. This experience made me wonder how the soundscape of this place affected the residents of La Paz. How do they make meaning and carve order from the diverse musical and sonic environments surrounding them daily? Would they experience change if they live surrounded by other soundscapes? As a musician, I wonder how the work of musical creators, those who work with sounds, as the main material for artistic expression, would be different in another place. As my work is still in progress in this presentation, I will share some of the results trying to map sonic La Paz. I will also share some music examples that depict how musicians interact with their sonic environment and imagine the city through music creation. I'll first show you this map. When I started the project, I started thinking what I will do with a big city, about 2 million inhabitants and different areas. I found out, and this is a zoom of the ArcGIS map that I was working with, and I found out that many of the ideas that I was working on centered in the city center. You can see the, I'll do like this. You can see the purple houses. Those are places where you can listen to music inside venues. And the ones with the music notations are institutions for music formation. All of them happen to be in the downtown. The stars, the green stars you see are places where one can go and rest and take a look at sightseeing the city. After that, I started collaborating with a laboratory at the Universidad Mayor de San Andrés, the state university there. And with a group of students, we started going into trips. What we did is just using a cell phone, trying to get the app and started recording and making notes. That was very important for me to just understand. I know the city, I grew up there, I've been there for many years, and I go every year 2 or 3 times. And so I just wanted to see what other people also were thinking about the same sounds that had so much life for me. Through doing this, I had many discoveries. Among those, the first one was one of the students said, "I'm not surprised of what I heard. You know, it's just like very familiar to me." So I was like, okay, so what is exactly what you're hearing? But what I did like is the sounds of the birds. I love hearing birds since I do not get to hear them where I live. This student was pointing out how in the area where she is at is very chaotic and there's no birds around. Then she went on and saying, all I saw and heard means company to me, because seeing people walking and hearing their sounds gives me a sense of many people around me. It's my translation. And I started thinking, oh, what is it that you really heard? And went on to hearing her recording. I was very surprised by her conclusions that hearing all of this meant being in company with other people. Another student went to this street called Calle Comercio, that's very close to the main down plaza, Plaza Murillo, and said, I went to Comercio Street because it has a lot of sounds. Aside from people and everyday sounds, what stood out to me was music, cumbia and pop, all mixed with the sound of wind. I started thinking, yes, Comercio is one of those places that has a lot of speakers outside of each vendor, and they do have their products and different music genres. And so I'm like, wow, that's also part of our sonic environment. So what is this all about? The student went on to say, and it is like being in the mountain and hear its sounds. The sounds of the city come from people, and as such, there is no point in avoiding its music that sometimes deafens you. I was very surprised to hear that, because I'm thinking, well, I'm in need to look for all of these environments, but as a musician, I could not avoid having all of these music genres around me and as a part of my listening. The questions, how do people in La Paz and residents make meaning and carve order from the diverse musical and sonic environments around them daily, kept sticking in my mind. How are their experiences and how the musical creators actually make meaning with this and as an artistic expression? It's very, very present. Because of this, I was like, I am looking into public spaces. I'm going out and listening to what it is. I need to get into their brains a little more. And I developed a survey. 700 people responded. It was online. And some of the questions that I asked, so what is the loudest place in the city? What happened during the pandemic? And these are some of the results or word clouds of the responses. it was interesting to me to see how when I asked the favorite music genre, which is of my interest as a musician, as you see in the word cloud, rock, pop was very present. I was thinking that perhaps cumbia or reggaeton, and that's so fashionable, it would come out. So actually, the questionnaire gave me even more questions, but it really led me to think about how people are very aware of what they're hearing. And most likely, when I was asking about whether they use headphones, if they don't use headphones, most of them were like, not really. But when I'm working, which is one of the results that I see in the table there, they were like, I'm listening to music very frequently when I'm working, and it's more than 8 hours a day, and I select my music based on my interest. So that's also what triggered another idea of what this was. But just to start wrapping up and showing part of my work, one of the in looking for different music genres and what they do with the sounds in the city and how they negotiate, I went on to looking into many songs that are about the city, maybe inspired by the city. And I found many artists that did different things, very curious things. I could show you a lot of examples of this. One from a group called Atajo, a rock band, is using actually a recording of a very important place called La Pérez. I'll show you. This is an arranged video of what they do. A video of their main video, music video, and also part of their live performance. You can hear there is an interesting relationship in between what is outside and how they make sense and meaning musically on expression that is through a global trend, this blues bar that's coming along with blues harmonic progression that's coming along within the song, and also mixing at the end of the clip, you could hear some of the folk music that is mixing within the song. So that was very much of interest to me. And finally, I'm going to give you another example of how musicians make meaning through the academic and classical traditions in La Paz. This composition is by composer Sergio Prudencio, very famous and notable composer in La Paz. And how he negotiated this is through having an orchestra of native instruments and started collaborating with them in the creation of certain sonic ideas. The example, this is a 20 and so minutes long composition. So I'm gonna be jumping so that you get to hear some of the sounds that this composer is experiencing. As you could hear, the sounds that and how they relate to individuals and musicians could be very diverse. When talking and having conversations with musicians that actually perform at this La Ciudad, at this composition that I just showcased, they said that actually, interestingly enough, they were talking about how this playing with others also meant company. They also said that they could hear these canisters that I was talking about of downtown. They could also see how people were like walking and being around. So the interpretation of how that goes was definitely La Paz, as they say. I will end just showing some of the work that is upcoming, and I'm thinking about how the city center of La Paz and its sounds are part of the music that's also resounding through musicians. I have taken a look into different music genres and how they have work within their listening practices and the sounds of their hearts and how they live within these sounds. Thank you very much.